And there is some bhajan is going on in this big hall.
You at the
It's
Govardhan
okay.
retreat?
Yeah. If you have a little time, I can show you the beautiful decoration.
I still haven't been there. It's been 3 years since I was at a Govardhan retreat, and 4 years because they canceled
Yeah.
1 year. And I haven't seen the new place or anything.
This is a new place.
Yeah, I know that. I was there,
We
but
are in a big
not since they
hall.
opened it.
Yeah. This is Govardhan.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Anyor.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you and start ahead. So we'll go ahead and start then. Goragraganya gana gota goloruharam Goranga gudatama gopyara kolpa briksham Gopalagada ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangira Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishe Gustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathavta Brajabala Bapahimam Vansha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody tonight. We're speaking from the Budapest temple from the Brahmachari ashram. It's the first time I've stayed in the Brahmachari ashram since like maybe 1980 something, 85, 86 or something. And the amazing thing is, I really like it. It is just so wonderful. There's so many wonderful devotees here. It's some of them are a little not so mature, but that's why we have a brahmachari ashram. That's why we have temples to train new people who aren't so mature. But they're all mature or not, they're all very, very sweet devotees. It's really, really nice. I'm very, very inspired here. One of Krishna Kun's kind of senior friends was speaking to her the other day. She's a little bit of an academic, and she's kind of shocked. She said, well, what are you guys doing? I can't believe you're staying in the brahmachari and brahmacharini ashram. How is it possible? You should, and somehow it's working out well, and both Krishna and Kundan are happy with it. So anyway, we're going on with Prema-bhakti-candrika. Let's recite our prayers to Narottam Das Thakur. Shri Krishna Nama Mrita Varshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Bharaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Tirthakarpa, would you like to read the translation?
Again and again, I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev, the nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance.
So we're continuing our discussion on Prema-bhakti-candrika, and we're on this fourth song still, which Narottam calls Yugala Bhajan Nishta, undivided service to the divine couple. And in our last session, he began to speak about a vision that he was having of the divine couple, and then seeing Radha and Krishna, Narottam, immediately and praying for their service. Then all of a sudden, Narottam, he became very shy, and he thought, "Oh, what am I speaking? I have no qualification for this." And then he just prays to their lotus feet with straw in his teeth. So now we have another verse today we're starting with. And anyway, such a nice topic. Let's just dive into it. Kanaka kitaki roy shama mara katikai dada padada pakaru chura nata bada shikarini natini rashiromani dunhu guni dunhu manojura. Sri Radhika resembles a golden pine flower, and Sri Shama Sundar resembles a blue sapphire. Their beauty defeats the pride of all. Sri Radhika and Sri Sham are the topmost dancers and entrance one another by their jewel-like qualities. So we spoke something, I think it was 2 sessions ago, if I'm not mistaken, about the nature of Raganuga Bhakti and the qualification for that, and some of the misunderstandings surrounding Raganuga Bhakti. Oftentimes I've been asked by devotees, Prabhu, could you please tell me what is Raganuga Sadhana? What should I do for Raganuga Sadhana? And someone who's asking that question means they really don't know anything about Raganuga Bhakti. You may have some special sadhana as a Raganuga Bhakta, and in that sense, I guess you could call it Raganuga Sadhana. But Rupa Goswami and our acharyas, especially Bhaktivinoda, make it clear that Ragmarg begins when we have Rag, when we have some intense desire for Radha and Krishna. And that's the distinguishing characteristic between Vaidhi Marg and Raganuga Marg, or the path of sadhana, or Vaidhi Bhakti, rules and regulations, and the path of spontaneous love. It's not something that we can imitate, and we heard from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta extensively about that subject matter. So here, after discussing that, it's appropriate now, we're going on to these verses, and now Narottam Das Thakur, he's describing his vision that he has. And it's important that we contemplate that. First of all, that this is a vision that Narottam is having. It's not a speculation. It's not a Brahma. It's not some illusion, some imagination. And as we spoke in some previous sessions, this is a problem with meditation. We could call it speculative meditation before we have some divine revelation. It's just a product of our mind and senses. And it may seem very nice, it may seem really wonderful, whatever. But I remember there was one Russian Mataji who was having dreams, and she had a little deity, and she put him in a race car, little deity of Krishna. She put him in an electric race car because he likes to go for rides and things. And that's okay. I I don't want to try to say that what she's experiencing is not real, because I'm not on that platform. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, once he was approached by some disciples who said, Guru Maharaj is this sadhu, he's so amazing, he's so realized. He was crossing some train tracks and he stumbled and fell. The train came and cut off his legs and he was completely detached. And he just called out, Ram, Ram, Ram. And you should come and see this great sadhu. So that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I mean, if I saw someone with their legs cut off and they're just chanting the Lord's names, I would be very impressed. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when he went there, he immediately could see that the person was a faker, was just putting on a show. And he asked him a question, how do you worship Lord Ram? And he said, I just worship him. He said, no, do you go through Sita? Do you go through Lakshman, Hanuman, Sugriv? Who do you go through? And he said, no, I don't go through anyone. I go directly to the Lord. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then quoted this verse, Ye me bhakta jana partaname bhakta sate janaha mad bhaktanam chaye bhakta ste me bhakta tamomadaha. Spoken by Krishna to Arjun from the Adi Purana, where Krishna says that person who says he's my devotee is not really my devotee. But the devotee of my devotee is my real devotee. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in this way revealed that this person was not on that platform. So it's a long little bit of an introduction, but the point is that this is something which should be a divine revelation. So at this point, we may be thinking, well, really, we're going to read, we're going to discuss today about how Radharani is golden and Krishna's blue and their beauty. And that's what we're going to do. But we're going to do it through our acharyas. And we're going to try to do it through our adhikar. And I want to speak something about that in the beginning here. Again, this is something which is based on revelation, because this is Raja Vidya. This is the topmost thing. And Raja Vidya is Rajaguya. It's the most confidential. And it's Pratyek Savagamam Dharmyam. It's that dharma which is meant to be practically realized, Susukam Kartam Avayam, through divine ecstasy. So then, should we stop here at this section of Prema-bhakti-candrika, or should we continue? The same question comes sometimes. We were discussing recently, and when we finish the third canto of the Bhagavatam, is a discussion given that unless one is free from sex desire, they should not continue. And so I know some devotees who just stopped reading. And Prabhupada wanted nectar of instruction and nectar devotion distributed to everyone. So I'm not satisfied just for saying this thing is illegal. Yes, it is illegal in some ways. Yes, it is beyond our means. We've established that before. I don't want to just beat that drum again and again. Sometimes people, that's all they talk about is we don't have qualifications. So let's just talk about how we're not qualified, how we can't talk about anything. That's not a very satisfying conclusion, because in Chaitanya Charitamrita, as we'll discover, there's so much description about the beauty of Radha and Krishna, and so many places from our acharyas, and we should hear these things. If we don't hear these things, how will we have some faith in the beauty of Radha and Krishna? But isn't it illegal? It's not illegal to read Srila Prabhupada's books. It's not illegal to read the books of our acharyas. What's beyond our adhikar is when we try to artificially practice a level of sadhana which is beyond us. Smarana means marana. Smarana or remembrance means death, marana. Means that one is dead to everything in the material world. That's the qualification of smarana. So for those persons who practice astakaliya smarana, and I think this is what a lot of our friends are asking me, what is Raganuga Bhakti sadhana, what they're thinking of. Some of them practice like that, but our practice is not an artificial practice of that. Srila Gaurkishore Babaji said that our Siddha Pranali mantra is Trinadapi Sunichena. We take shelter of the holy name, and as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Harinam Chintamani, Name Prasvatita Hoy Rupa Guna Karma. When the holy name blossoms, then you'll see the form of Krishna. Rupa, you'll see Guna, you'll understand the qualities of Krishna. In Karma or Leela, you'll see the pastimes of Krishna. All that comes from the holy name. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that we should not read Krishna book and we should just sit and chant all, because then what will your conception be? So we should have some conception why Radha and Krishna are so beautiful. So we're reading this in this conception, in this mood, just like a young student who is beginning to study mathematics, and he's very proud of his mathematical ability. He's already can understand that 2 + 3 = 5. He's really become an advanced mathematician. But he can understand something about multiplication, something about division, something about subtraction, maybe even something theoretical about algebra and geometry. But he's not yet ready to approach those subject matters. But still he has some theoretical understanding of it. Otherwise, he won't progress in school. If you just go to school and you say, I want to get a PhD in mathematics, and they say, great. And you say, yeah, so I'd like to know now what 3 + 4 is. You're going to have to understand what subject matter. You have to understand something about the subject matter that you want to study. Gaurni Tai Prabhu, I'm sorry, we're going to miss out on you, Hare Krishna. We'll have some recording for anybody who can't continue. So this vision of Narottam Das Thakur is described, and he's sharing this with us in Prema-bhakti-candrika. I'm not a person who likes burning books or banning books. It's a very, very bad thing. But we should have a proper understanding how to approach a book. What is my connection with the book? What is my adhikar with the book? Again, using the example of the child, he sees the big brother's book, and he opens it up and it says E, and there's an equal sign, and it has a capital M, and there's a little 2 next to it, E = mc². And he says, what kind of thing is this? You can't put letters with mathematical figures, and this is nonsense. He can't understand what to speak of practice, but he may be able to understand a little something about algebra, about physics, in a general way, just what the subject matter is. So with that mood, let's go ahead and begin to approach this subject matter. So he's speaking about the sweetness of the divine couple. This is his first revelation. He's seeing Radha and Krishna in their abundant sweetness, and this is the first thing he's saying. He's revealing what he saw. Kanaka Kitaki Roy Shama, Marakata Koi, Dadapa Dadapa Karu Chora. First, he speaks about Kanaka Kitaki Roy. Kanaka means gold. And how Radharani's beauty resembles a Ketaki flower, a golden Ketaki flower. To give some indication of how unlimitedly sweet Radharani's form is, he says Kanaka Ketaki. But there's no actual comparison within this world to try to describe the color of Mahabhav, which is Radharani's Madhanakya Mahabhava Mayi. She's the embodiment of Mahabhav, and she has this color which comes along with it. Prabodhananda Saraswati is written in Radharasa Sudhananti, Kanti Kapi Mahabhuta. That Radharani's Kanti, it's Kapi Mahabhuta. It's amazing. It's so wonderful. And in other places, this is Kanti Kapi Parojvala. That her effulgence is very, very brilliant in a way that you can't even describe. The word parojvala indicates that nobody, no object in this world can have a complexion like that. And again, sometimes Prabodhananda Saraswati said, Gatre Koti Tadi Gachabi. That Radharani's body shines like millions of lightning strikes. So we're hearing something about the beauty of Radha. What is that beauty? How do we understand it? What is the relevance of it for us? These are some of the questions we want to answer as we're going through hearing about that beauty. We also want to speak about it in a kind of philosophical way too. The poet Govinda Das, he's described in one song about the beauty of Krishna. Let's share this here. Oops. Oh, that was my class from this morning. Kuvalaya Nila Ratan Dali Tanjana Mega Punja Jini Vadana Suchan. That the beauty of Krishna is so amazing. Jini means to defeat. It defeats Kuvalaya Nila Ratana, the blue lotus flower. It defeats the color of blue sapphires. It defeats the color of black soot that you put around the eyes, megapunja, a host of rain clouds. And when someone sees this, they lose everything. They can't imagine anything else. And he says, Darapa Karuchura, Narottam Das Thakur says, that he crushed the pride of Cupid. Cupid's very proud. According to Amarakosh, one of the meanings of Cupid is Darpaka. And but when Cupid, Kandarpo Darpaka Nanga Ityamaraha, that he crushed the pride of Cupid. So Narottam uses this word Darpaka, Darpaka is a name for Cupid. When Krishna is with Radharani, then he becomes Madan Mohan, that personality who captivates Cupid. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in Govinda Lilamrita, Radha Shangi Jada Bhati Tada Madana Mohana, that when Krishna's with Radha, it's at that time that he's especially Madan Mohan. And Govinda Das sings that Chori Gopi Manorate Manmanata Manamate Namadari Madana Mohan. He sings a similar thing about Madan Mohan. And he explains that why it is that Krishna is known as Madan Mohan. Everybody in India is having a hard time. Vikramakesha and Gornitai. I have a hard time when we're in Puri also. The connection is so terrible there. Chori Gopi Manorate. That Chori means a thief. And that Krishna, he steals the minds of the gopis. That the gopis, they have their minds are like a chariot going this way and that way. Manmata manamate. And that person who's manamate, who's Cupid, who's always attracting the minds, the mana of others, he attracts the mind of Cupid. Namadhari Madana Mohan. And therefore he's known as Madan Mohan. Jini Pancha Sada Darpa Swayam Nava Kandarpa Rasa Kore Loile Gopi Gan. He defeats, Jini means to defeat, Jini Pancha Sada Darpa, the 5 arrows that Cupid has. Because he himself actually, Swayam Nava Kandarpa, he's a fresh young Cupid, Rasa Kore Loile Gopi Gan, who takes the gopis to dance the Ras Leela. When we speak about art, art has no meaning unless there's a connoisseur. You may be Leonardo da Vinci, you may be Michelangelo, you may be the greatest artist in the world. But if there's no one who's qualified to appreciate your paintings, then what's the value of your art? So the question comes also, where is the beauty of Krishna? How do we understand the beauty of Krishna? And the beauty of Krishna lies in the eyes of the gopis. Who else can see that? In the beginning of his commentary in the Ras Lila, Sridhar Swami's Bhavarta Deepika, he's described Brahmadi Jaya Samruddha Dharpa Kandarpa Dharpaha Jayati Shripatir Gopi Rasamandala Mandika. He said that Cupid, Cupid can delude, he can bewilder even Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, and so many different demigods. But when Cupid sees Krishna surrounded by so many different gopis, and with those gopis, that's like his ornaments. Krishna, Kandarpa, Cupid becomes bewildered. So let's hear a little something then about what are these ornaments of Radha and Krishna. I'd like first to hear something from my Guru Maharaj. This is from Mathura Meets Vrindavan. And Jai Gaur, would you like to read this? This Complexion of Love. This is from chapter 6 of Mathura Meets Vrindavan. I'm working on this book right now. I'm trying to finish it, the layout. Go ahead.
When man becomes condensed, it's called pranaya. In the pranaya stage, there is abhina manana, no thought of difference between the lover and the beloved. Rupa Goswami has described this as Vishramba Bhav, where there is great intimacy with no sense of awe or veneration. Ujjvala Nilamani, 14.108. In the pranaya stage, the lover's body, mind, life, and intelligence become one with the body, mind, life, and intelligence of Krishna. This is abhina manana, or pranaya.
So my Guru Maharaj, he spoke about this also in Embankment of Separation, and he quoted the 6th verse from the Adi Leela, Sri Radhaya pranaya mahima kiddu sovanayava swadyo yena bhuta madhurima kiddu sovanayava. How Krishna had, there's 3 types of greed that Krishna had for which to fulfill he came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the first type of greed is Sri Radhaya pranaya mahima. What is the mahima, the glory of Radharani's pranaya? And my Guru Maharaj raises a question. What is a necessity? What is the purpose of saying pranaya? Because there's different stages of love, and pranaya is not the topmost stage of love. The Snehaman, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, Ruda Mahabhav, Adi Ruda Mahabhav, Modanakana Bhav, Madanakana Bhav. These are the different stages of Madhurja Ras. And Pranaya is way down there. So why in particular is he mentioning Pranaya? So he explains that Pranaya indicates Vishramba Bhav. Vishramba means, we say Vishrambena Guru Seva. Rupa Goswami says that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that when we do service for Guru Dev, it should be Vishramba. Vishramba is a synonym for Pranaya. Vishramba means when the lover and the beloved become one. And so when we speak about the beauty of Radha, we can't separate Krishna from the beauty of Radha. When we speak about the beauty of Krishna, you can't separate Srimati Radharani from that. In this material world, people study beauty. They study colors. They write books about colors. Beauty is a very fascinating subject, and art. But all the beauty in this world is selfish. The beauty of Krishna is not selfish. It's a manifestation. It's a response to the ecstatic love of Radha and Krishna, of the Radharani and the gopis. And as we'll see, going through Chaitanya Charitamrita and some other discussions, that the ornaments and beauty of Srimati Radharani are manifestations of her love. Once you can read this next paragraph now, Jaguar.
Therefore, there is Aikya, a feeling of oneness. Radharani always thinks of Krishna, and Krishna always thinks of Radharani. This very intense thought in the heart is oneness. And then their external complexion comes. You can recognize this from their garments. Radharani's garment is a blue sari, Nila Vasana. Krishna's complexion is Nilamani, like a blue gem. He is Ujjvala Nilamani, complexion like a brilliant blue gem. Because Nilamani Krishna is there in her heart, therefore Radharani's sari is blue. Radharani is in the heart of Krishna, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. Radharani's bodily hue is the color of molten gold. Therefore, Pita Vasana, Krishna's garment is a yellow dhoti. Krishna is Pitambara Dhara, Pita Vasana Dhara, one who wears yellow garments. The internal feeling in the heart is expressed externally in the form of garments. This indicates who is there in the heart. This is pranaya.
In this vision that Narottam Das Thakur is having, he's speaking about the effulgence, the beauty of Krishna and the beauty of Radharani. And Krishna has a bluish complexion. Srimati Radharani has a golden complexion. The golden complexion is a manifestation of her love. Krishna's bluish complexion is also a manifestation of his love for Radharani. And this manifests in the colors of their garments. Radharani wears a blue sari because on the inside of Srimati Radharani is Krishna. She's always meditating on Krishna. Krishna's in her heart, and therefore her sari is blue. And on the other hand, Radharani is in the heart of Krishna, and therefore Krishna is wearing a golden dhoti. So we should understand these things philosophically, at least. And I understand these are a little bit high. Now I want to read from Madhya Lila chapter 8, the conversation of Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which again, let's look at this in a theological kind of way, in a literary kind of way. One of the very first books that Srila Prabhupada wrote before he finished the Bhagavad Gita was a summary study of the Madhya Lila chapter 8. And that book was not found for some years. It was later found by Nrsimha Maharaj at the Radha Damodar temple, and they printed a copy of it. As far as I know, it's still not printed by the BBT. But Prabhupada gave a summary study that said this subject matter we can understand in Madhya Lila chapter 8 is a very important subject matter, even for brand new people. So let's dive in. Text 164 begins by speaking about the ecstasy of Radharani. Who is Radharani? Say Mahabhava hoy chintamani sar. He says this Mahabhava, this ecstasy that Radharani has is chintamani sar. It's the essence, the sar, Prabhupada says, of spiritual life. But chintamani also means that the wish-fulfilling jewel, which gives everything. It nourishes all the different rasas. Krishna Vansha Purna Kori E Karyatana. And he says that Krishna Vansha Purna, to fulfill the desires, the Vansha of Krishna, that's all that Srimati Radharani, E Karyatana. Kagaj is the same word, the karya here. Karya means business or news. Kagaj means, you say, kabur. Kabur in Bengali, New Bengali, contemporary Bengali means news. Say kabur kagaj, newspaper. So karyatane. And then he goes on to explain, Mahabhava Chintamani Radha Swarup. The Srimati Radharani, she's this Mahabhava Chintamani. She's a personification of that Mahabhava. She is this ecstatic love for Krishna personified. And this is a very important philosophical thing for us to understand. We may be full of material desires, and we may be rotten and bad, and we don't have any qualification, but we should theoretically know that such a thing exists. That what is Srimati Radharani? It's not, otherwise we're going to start thinking with our mundane consciousness, which is, watch so many beauty pageant things, Miss Universe, Miss World, or whatever, and we'll think that beauty means that. But beauty means the personification of love. Mahabhava Chintamani Radha Raswarup Lalitadi Sakitanya Kara Vyuha Rup. And the different gopis headed by Lalita, Vishaka, and others, they're all Kaya Vyuha Rup. They're all manifestations of the body of Radharani. In particular, they're manifestations of her ecstasy. She becomes so ecstatic, her ecstasy, her love manifests in the form of different gopis. And we'll hear more about that a little later in Prema-bhakti-candrika, where Narottam glorifies the Asasakis. Radha Prati Krishna Sneha Sugandhi Udvartana. So he says that what is the nature of Radharani's body? It's just full of Krishna Sneha. Her affection for Krishna is Sugandhi Udvartana. This is the smell. This is the fragrance coming from Radharani's body. Sugandhi Deha. Deha means a body. Sugandhi, very fragrant body. Ujjvala Varana. And this is the effulgence of Srimati Radharani. It's her personified love. Now, let's go to Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Let's see, this is a very beginning kind of ABC purport, which is good for brand new bhaktas and people in Sunday feast programs. Leela Purushottam Prabhu, you'll be a good person to read this maybe. Go ahead. Sugandhi Udvartana.
Sounds like a Oprah one. Sugandhi Udvartana refers to a paste made of several perfumes and fragrant oils. This paste is massaged all over the body, and in this way the body's dirt and perspiration are removed. Srimati Radharani's body is automatically perfumed, but when her body is massaged with the scented paste of Lord Krishna's affection, her entire body is doubly perfumed and made brilliant and lustrous. This is the beginning of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's description of Srimati Radharani's transcendental body. This description, found in verses 165 to 181, is based on a book by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami known as Prema-bhakti-candrika. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's translation of the original Sanskrit reads as follows. Shall I continue?
Yeah.
The love of the gopis for Krishna is full of transcendental ecstasy. It appears to be a brilliant jewel, and enlightened by such a transcendental jewel, Radharani's body is further perfumed and decorated with kunkuma. In the morning, her body is bathed in the nectar of compassion, in the afternoon in the nectar of youth, and in the evening in the nectar of luster itself. In this way, the bathing is performed, and her body becomes as brilliant as Chintamani jewel. She is dressed in various kinds of silken garments, one of which is her natural shyness. Her beauty is more and more enhanced, being decorated with red kunkuma of beauty itself and the blackish musk of conjugal love. Thus her body is decorated with different colors. Her ornaments embody the natural symptoms of ecstasy: trembling, tears, jubilation, stunning, perspiration, faltering of the voice, bodily redness, madness, and dullness. In this way, her entire body is bedecked with these 9 different jewels. Over and above this, the beauty of her body is enhanced by her transcendental qualities, which constitute the flower garland hanging on her body. The ecstasy of love for Krishna is known as dhira and adhira, sober and restless. Such ecstasy constitutes the covering of Srimati Radharani's body, and it is adorned by camphor. Her transcendental anger towards Krishna is embodied as the arrangement of the hair on her head, and the tilak of her great fortune shines on her beautiful forehead. Srimati Radharani's earrings are the holy names of Krishna, as well as the hearing of his name and fame. Her lips are always reddish due to the betel nut of ecstatic affection for Krishna. The black ointment around her eyes is her tricky behavior with Krishna, brought about by love. Her joking with Krishna and gentle smiling constitute the camphor with which she is perfumed. She sleeps in her room with the aroma of pride, and when she lies down in her bed, the transcendental variety of her loving ecstasies is like a jeweled locket in the midst of her necklace of separation. Her transcendental breasts are covered by her sari in the form of affection and anger toward Krishna. She has a stringed instrument known as Kachapi Veena, which is the fame and fortune that actually dries up the faces and breasts of the other gopis. Always keeps her hands on the shoulder of her gopi friend, who represents her youthful beauty, and although she is highly qualified with so many spiritual assets, she is nonetheless affected by the cupid known as Krishna. Thus she is defeated. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami offers his respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani. Taking a straw in his mouth, indeed he prays, O Gandharvika, Srimati Radharani, just as Lord Krishna never rejects a surrendered soul, please don't reject me. This is a summary translation of the Prema-bhakti-candrika, which Kaviraj Goswami quotes.
So the point from this is a very beautiful thing to hear. It's very, very inspiring for us. We're hearing something about Radharani, we're getting some purification. But the philosophical point, which is very important here, is that it's not that Radharani's body is something mundane. The Radharani's, everything that she has a stringed instrument, Kachapi Veena, which is her fame and fortune, which dries up the faces and breasts of the other gopis. She has garlands of love. Her earrings are hearing about the names of Krishna. She is the personification of love for Krishna. This is Srimati Radharani, and this is how we want to understand her descriptions. She's Karunyamrita Dharaya Snana Pratama. That Pratama end of big. She takes her bath, her first bath in the nectar of Karunya, of mercy. And she takes her second bath in the nectar of youth. Go skip the purport in this one. Lavanyamrita dharaya tad uparisnan nija lajja shama patasati paridan. After a midday bath, she takes another bath in the nectar of bodily luster. She puts on the garment of shyness, which is her black silk sari. So this is Prabhupada in his purport. He summarized these different verses, which Kaviraj Goswami, as he pointed out, Kaviraj Goswami is giving us a translation from Raghunath Das Goswami. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and go to a few verses later and read something more about the ornaments of Radharani. Kila kinchitari bhava vimsati bhushita gunashreni pushpamala sarvangi purita. Also ornamenting her body are the 20 kinds of ecstatic symptoms, beginning with Kila Kinchita. Her transcendental qualities constitute the flower garland hanging in fullness over her body. So let's bear in mind, Srila Prabhupada was translating this as something he wanted for brand new people, obviously not stressing on these particular aspects of this chapter, but he wanted people to see and understand something about what is the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And Krishna book is not illegal. Nectar devotion is not illegal. This discussion is not illegal. Chaitanya Charitamrita is not illegal. Prabhupada says in his purport. Kirtakarpa, would you like to read this purport? The 20 different moods?
Yes. This one is yellow, right?
Sorry?
What is highlighted?
Yes.
Yeah. The 20 different moods headed by Kila Kinchita are described as follows. First, in connection with the body, there are bhava, ecstasy, hava, gestures, and hela, negligence. In relation to the self, there are shobha, beauty, kanti, luster, deepti, brilliance, madhurya, sweetness, pragalbhata, impudence, audarya, magnanimity, and dhairya, patience. And in relation to nature, there are lila, pastimes, vilas, enjoyment, vichiti, breaking off, and vibrama, puzzlement. There are no English equivalents for the words kilakinchita, mutaita, and kutamita. Srimati Radharani's flower garland consists of her qualities and is divided into mental, verbal, and bodily parts. Her attitude of forgiveness and mercy is all mental. Her talks, which are very pleasing to the ear, are verbal. The bodily qualities are age, beauty, luster, and grace.
This is Srimati Radharani. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur is wanting to share with us. He has this vision. He wants to share this vision with us. But we should understand in Tattva, we don't have any possibility at this position in our life of understanding the beauty of Srimati Radharani in an experiential or directly experienced way. We're just hearing about it in a theoretical way. But we should understand that everything, all of Radharani's beauty, all of Radharani's ornaments are personified love for Krishna. Let's go now to Rupa Goswami's Radha Krishna Ganadesh Deepika, and where he speaks about how Radharani's dress is a manifestation of the love of the gopis, because the gopis are dressing Radharani. We often hear about that, and we think, oh, that's a really, really super high topic. That's Govinda Lilamrita, I can't. But Vesha Priya, Vayasyaya, Guru Patyadi Vanshanam Harina Prema Kalahe Tasya Evanu Yayita. These dear Sakis are experts in preparing Sri Radhika's dress, ornaments, and so forth, and in cheating honorable persons such as the husband, mothers-in-law, and father-in-law. When Sri Hari and Sri Radha sometimes have a loving quarrel, they take Sri Radhika's side. So we're hearing about Radharani's dress, Radharani's ornaments, and how they're all personifications of ecstasy. Prior to that, Kaviraj Goswami was explaining that the gopis themselves are the Kaya Vyuha Rup, or manifestations of Srimati Radharani. So that Kaya Vyuha Rup, her expansions of her loving ecstasy for Krishna, they manifest in the form of servants who dress Radharani in a way to bring pleasure to Krishna. And the ornaments and dress and things that they use are all personified love for Krishna. And I'd like now to go a little further. These are the description of Radharani's ornaments. Bhushananani. Tilakam smarayantrakyam haro hari manohara rochano ratnatadanko grana mukta prabhakari. Radha's tilak is called smara yantra. Smara means that it's a yantra where she's remembering Krishna. When we put on tilak, what are we thinking? I was thinking recently, I had some idea it would be kind of nice maybe to write some commentary on the tilak mantras. There's a lot to be said about them. Om Keshavaya Namaha, that's the first thing we do on our forehead. Well, who is Keshava? Well, Keshava is a name for Lord Narayan. But Keshava is also a name for Krishna. So it's a little tricky. And that's what we wear on our forehead. We have some external respect for Lord Narayan, and we're proper, but internally we're seeing it as Keshava Krishna. So Radharani is wearing that tilak of Smara Yantra, and I don't want to go into the rest of the different mantras. Her necklace is Hari Manohar. Hari Manohar, it's a necklace which Manohar, which confuses and bewilders Krishna. It attracts his mind, Manohar. Her jeweled earrings, Tandaka, are called Rochana. The pearl in her nose is called Prabhakari. I'll just read this in English. The pendant on her chest, Madana, conceals a picture of Sri Krishna within it. When Krishna Kun's not with us tonight, she's taking care of her mother, who has a very serious situation of cancer right now. But when they installed the deities of Radha Madhav in in Kiev, we had some special gifts made for the deities there with some pendants with a picture of Radharani for Krishna and a picture of Krishna for Radharani. We gave those to Niranjan Maharaj, and Maharaj gave them to the deities. And they're still wearing them because it's like their standard thing they wear every day. So then Srimati Radharani, she has a Shamantaka jewel called Shankachuta Shiromani. She has a Sobhagyamani, this jewel which dangles on Radharani's chest. And the radiance of that jewel puts to shame if you combine the luster of the sun and moon as they rise together. Now, what does that remind us of from Chaitanya Charitamrita? Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityanando Sahodito, Godadai Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tamonudo. They have a beautiful backdrop here. They really, really take care of Dwelnitai Vijagaranga very wonderfully. I mean, like some of the best deity standard I've seen in the world. And they have beautiful backdrops. And one backdrop they had a few days ago, behind Nityananda Prabhu, you could see a moon. And behind Mahaprabhu, you could see a sun. They're both rising simultaneously. So why do we say this? Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito. Because this rising of the sun and moon together, this is something like Srimati Radharani, but Radharani's Kanti Sobhagyamanu Uchate, it's greater than the sun and moon rising together. Radharani has golden anklets on her feet called Chatakarava, because the tinkling sound, jingling sound makes it sound Chataka. Her armlets are beautified by various colorful jewels that are called Manikarbura. Now, just a little comment also. I don't want to go deep into these things, but I'm sure there's commentaries on this. And each one of these different words, we're touching on a few of them. Each one of these words, it has some deep purport to it. Radharani has a signet ring called Vipaksha Madhamardani. Her waist belt is called Kanchana Chitrangi. And her ankle bells are called Ratna Gopur, and their jingling stuns even Sri Madhusudan. Radharani has two types of garments called Megambara and Kuruvinda Niba. The former kind is her favorite color, which is blue like a cloud, and the latter is red, which is Krishna's favorite color. So if you're ever wondering, sometimes it describes Radharani wearing red. Why is Radharani wearing red? Because that's Krishna's favorite color. Sudam Sudarpahara no Darpano Mani Bandava. Radharani has a darpa, a mirror, which has different studded jewels on all sides. It's called Sudam Sudarpaharana, because Harana defeats or steals, Harana means, even the pride, the darpa of the moon, Sudangsu, by its beauty. Salaka Narmada Haimi Swastida Ratna Kankati. Kandarpa Kuhali Nama Vatika Pushpabhushita. In Radharani, she has a hairpin, which is made out of gold. It's called Narmada, the Narmada River. Her jewel-studded comb is called Swastida. Swasti means auspicious. And her garden, which is always beautified by flowers, is called Kandarpa Kuhali. So this is something about the beauty of Srimati Radharani. I'd like to finish with a few other descriptions from some other different literatures about the beauty of Radha and Krishna. Just we can relish a little bit. But beginning with Prema-Vilas chapter 7, this is a discussion between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lokanath Goswami. And Mahaprabhu met Lokanath Goswami when Mahaprabhu went to Bangladesh. And he began to explain to Lokanath Goswami the very intimate purpose that he had in coming as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And these are some of the verses which are relevant to our discussion today. He says, Mora Angita Bharana Vasana Radha Gai, that Radharani, she wears these blue-colored cloth, which is a color of my complexion. And by wearing that Nila Vastra, she becomes very, very happy. Sukha Atipai, she becomes very happy. But when she's separated from me, Amara bichedi pari aruna basana apaneki nijadasi mani sarvak shana. At that time, she wears some aruna vasana. She wears the color of the rising sun. And she always thinks of herself then as my maid servant. So this is significant, this saffron color. This is a color, he says, then I'm going to adopt this. Dadiba means to adopt or to take, to hold. Dadiba tahara kanti pariba aruna basana. I'm going to adopt both Radharani's kanti and this cloth, this saffron colored cloth of separation. And by doing that, I'll become Radharani's maidservant and I'll get so much happiness. This is Krishna's desire. He wants to taste the mood of Radharani. Right? But to taste the mood of Radharani, it's not just that you sit down and I saw now, was it Apple computers, now they have some new gadget, which is some goggles that go on. It's a computer by itself. And you go to a whole different reality and you see all kinds of different things. It's not that Krishna just wants to go and see something like that. He wants to live it. But by living it, he also has to adopt the complexion and the dress of Srimati Radharani, because those things go along with her mood. Otherwise, what is the necessity? As my Guru Maharaj raised in discussion about the word pranaya, what is the necessity of using that word pranaya? What is the necessity of Krishna taking on the complexion of Srimati Radharani? There's a necessity there, because that complexion is the color of Madanakya Mahabhav. There's a necessity for Krishna to take on the color of Radharani, and in particular, the color of her cloth, and in particular, the saffron-colored cloth. When a lady is in separation from her beloved, she generally wears white. And that's why we see widows in Vedic culture wearing white. But why is Radharani wearing saffron color? It's described that Radharani keeps kumkum on her breasts. And crying in separation from Krishna, her tears go down in her breast, and the tears wash that color, the kumkum, into the white cloth. And then that white cloth becomes saffron colored. So that white cloth is there in separation, but when that separation becomes more and more intense, then the white cloth becomes arunavasana, the color of separation. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that when I adopt that complexion of Radharani and the cloth, the saffron-colored cloth of separation, then by that I'll be able to become her maidservant and I'll get happiness. In other words, he's not adopting just some. He's not just going down to Walmart or something and buying some colored cloth, but there's a purport to it. There's a meaning to it. When I wear this saffron-colored dress of separation, then I'll be able to sing the glorious qualities of Radharani. And how does he do that? By chanting Hare Krishna. Because that's the glorious qualities of Radharani. She's always chanting the names of Krishna. Now, I'd like to share with you something I like very much. Sometimes we sing this in our ashram in Puri. We usually sing this in the same melody that we sing Guru Vastika prayers. This is by the poet Dina Krishna Das. And this is the Mangal Artik the gopis sing every day, meditating on Radha and Krishna and their different ornaments. Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe, Thakur Hamari Nanda Kila, Thakurani Shrimati Radhe. The gopis are calling out, it goes, Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Jaya Radhe. Shri Nandalal is our worshipful Thakur, and Shrimati Radharani is our Thakurani. Vrishabhanu Nandini Shri Nandanandan Sakala Guna Gari Bodha Mohe Kale Kokila Kuhudale Brahmara Hari Guna Gaye. And they're singing about the wonderful qualities of Vrishabhanu Nandini and Srinanda Nandan, Sakala Guna Agadi. Their qualities, their wonderful guna qualities are without limit. Bodha Shamoy Kale, that particular time of day, those are called Bodha Shamoy Kale, that before daybreak, which is a very, very auspicious time. At that time, Kokila Kuhu Dale Brahmara Hari Gunagai. The kokilas, they start singing from the trees to wake up Radha and Krishna. And the bumblebees, Brahma Rahari Gunagai, they start singing about Krishna's wonderful qualities. Ratan palanka pari baitila duhu jana duhu mukha sundara saje shamir bame navina kishori muchaki hase. When they wake up, Radha and Krishna sit on the bedstead and they display their beautiful faces. And Radharani, Shamya Bhame, Navina Kishori, she sits on Radharani, on Krishna's left, and like a Navina Kishori, like a young girl, Muchaki Hase. She's very, very shy. She has a smile, but it's a very, very shy smile. She's smiling because the gopis are there, and they're looking at her and saying, we know what you were doing. And Radharani becomes very, very shy. Pitambara Dora Nila Patadarini. Ganasodamani Saje, Shamasiri Siki Chudaviraje, Roy Siddhiveni Saje. And now they begin to speak about the ornaments of Radha and Krishna and how Pitambara Dora, Krishna's wearing this yellow golden complexion, golden colored dhoti. And while Srimati Radharani Nila Patadharani, she's wearing a dark blue sari. And it looks just like Ganasudamani Saji, just like a newly formed rain cloud caressed by lightning. Shama Siddhi Sikhi, now Krishna has a peacock feather. She has a veni, she has a braid. Her curling hair is tied back in a braid. Shamar gali bona malaviraje, Roy gali gajamoti saje, Shamar kori mohana murali viraje, Roy kori kanchana saje. And Krishna has this Shama gali bona malaviraje. He has this forest garland. Roy gali gajamoti saje, whereas Radharani is wearing a necklace of pearls. Shama Kori Mohana Murali. And the translators said that Sham holds his notorious Mohan Murali, his flute, which is notorious for bewildering all the gopis. And he has numerous bracelets and bangles glittering on the wrists of Srimati Radharani. Shama koti tate gurgura viraje, Roy koti kinkini baje, Jugala charani, mani moya nupura, runa juna baje. Krishna has Shamakoti tate, guru viraje. He has a belt which is making this beautiful sound, gurgura, a belt of bells. And Radharani, she has some bells also around her waist. And it's a kinkini mala. And Radha and Krishna, their decorations are complete with their nupura, their bells which make the sound runa juna. Saki manjari jato mangala gayanto, Jai Radhe Govinda Jai Radhe, Sundara Badane Aruni Malochana Bankima Charani Saje. And this is the Mangalartik of the gopis. And the Sakis are all calling out, Jai Radhe Govinda Jai Radhe. And Kishori, their faces are very, very beautiful. And Sundara Badani Aruna Malochani Bankima Charani Sa. Bankima means crooked. They're casting crooked glances at each other from their reddish eyes because they haven't been sleeping all night. Sukha Pikasari Mayoya Mayuri Kunja Bhavana Bodhi Gaje Vishabhanu Nandini Ramani Shiromani Navasaki Gana Maje. And there's a whole orchestra going on, the origin of all orchestras in Vrindavan. The cuckoos, Sukha Pikasari, Mayuya Mayuri, Kunja Bhavana Bodhigaji. The cuckoos, the kokilas, the peacocks, the parrots, and all the different birds are making this wonderful sound. And what are they doing? They're all singing together. Brishabhanu Nandini Ramani Shiromani Navasaki Gana Maje. All glories to the daughter of Maharaj Brishabhanu, showing that actually all the animals and birds of Braj are on the side of Srimati Radharani. So this is what's going on. And the poet sings, Shri Vrindavane Kusumukanane Pramari Radha Guna Gaye Dina Krishna Das Bani Madhura Shri Vrindavani Yugala Kishora Biraje. In this flower kunj of Vrindavan, Kusamukanani, Brahmari Radha Guna Gai, even the bees are singing the glories of Radharani. Dina Krishna Das Bani. So the poet Dina Krishna Das, he finishes his song, Mother Shri Vrindavani Yugala Kishora Viraje, that the divine youthful couple reign within the Madhura abode of Vrindavan. So this is something about the beauty of Radha and Krishna. And we should think something about it. We're not impersonalists. We should be personalists. But we're not ready for doing Astakali Smarana, sitting down and doing nothing and just, not doing nothing, but sitting down and just trying to meditate on Radha and Krishna. Rather, we're on the path of divine mercy. And we're chanting the holy name. We're doing kirtan and preaching for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. And by their mercy, these things will arise in our heart. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur is teaching us through this verse. He had some meditation, some prayer. He started evoking his humility, that I have no qualification for this. I'd like to serve you, but I please forgive me. I'm putting straw in my teeth. And then Radha and Krishna show themselves before him. The first thing he sees is their effulgence and the beauty of Radha and Krishna. And then Narottam Das Thakur is sharing this with us because it's important that we hear about it. If we don't hear about the beauty of Radha and Krishna, we'll want to hear about the beauty of some other young woman or something. So this is today's verse. We'll read it again. Kanaka Kitaki Roy, Shama Mara Katikai, Darapa Darapa Karuchura, Natabara Shikarini, Nati Nira Shiromani, Dunu Gune Duna Mana Jura. That Radharani Roy, Kanaka Ketaki Roy, she's just like a golden Ketaki flower. Shama Mara Kati Kai. And as we see here in the purport, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments that Kai means desire. So this Shama Mara Kata, this bluish complexion of Krishna, indicates Krishna's desire. That bluish blackish complexion, according to Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the color of Madhurya Ras. This is Krishna's personified reciprocation with the gopis. It's his desire for them. Shama Marakati Kai. This is Vishwanath's little secretive explanation. Just saying a little small thing. Darapa Darapa Karuchura. It defeats the pride of the topmost dancer. And as we described also, Darapa is also a name for Cupid. It defeats the pride of Cupid. Natabara Shikarini. That the crest jewel of dancers, it defeats them because Radha and Krishna are the best of all the dancers. Natanara Shiromani. Dunu Gune Dunu Manajura. And they embrace each other. They're overwhelmed by each other. And this is what we should be meditating on. Krishna's beauty, Radharani's beauty is not meant for us. It's meant for Krishna. And Krishna's beauty is really meant for the gopis. It's only they who can appreciate it. And we should have some theoretical understanding of it. But our purpose is Radha Krishna Pranamor Yugala Kishore. Jivane Marani Gati Arimor, that our desires, Narottam Das Thakur says elsewhere, is to bring Radha and Krishna together. And that will give them pleasure because they're the perfect reciprocation for each other. Just as we spoke in the beginning, an artist may make an amazing painting, but if there's no person who's qualified to appreciate it, then the art has no meaning. So the beauty of Krishna, in one sense, has no meaning by itself without the love and appreciation of the gopis. So our business is not to try to relish the beauty of Krishna on our own. We can certainly appreciate something of it, but our business is to try to serve that beauty of Krishna by bringing Radha and Krishna together. So I'm going to stop there. And that's our little discussion today. This is not good for Sunday Feast program, but anyway, we're trying to discuss a little something today. So we'll go ahead and stop. If anybody has any reflections or comments or anything, I'm sure everybody has lots of thoughts about these topics. Any reflections from anybody? Take the card, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. That was so nice. That's like amazing how Krishna and Srimati Radharani and their pastimes, how it is expanding, because you like listen and you study maybe some pastime, and then you discover there is like completely another dimension which you didn't even touch, you know.
Yeah, so much of the time we think, and this is I've been speaking to the devotees. They asked me to give full classes 4 times this week here in the temple about book distribution. And I've been discussing with them about, today we spoke about the cowherd boys and how Krishna sent them to go and beg from the Brahmins, and they were unsuccessful. And Krishna smiled and laughed when they came back. They were successful. The success is not in the quantity of things they bring back, but the success is in pleasing Krishna. And the problem that we have is we're always trying to enjoy Krishna consciousness for ourselves, because that's what we've always been, that's why he's been raised. And man, that was a rockin' kirtan. And that Swami was really good. And that Prasada, man, that was great. And that's okay. That's okay for new people. We don't want to, better they do that than other things. But we need to get rid of that selfishness. And for that, we go out and we try to think of the problems and the suffering of other people. We try to take that on them before we go out and we do book distribution. We try to approach people. And the purpose of that is not just to make a score, but the purpose of that is to please Krishna. It's like the cowherd boys going out. So in the same way, the purpose of Radha and Krishna's beauty, it's not for us to get all, all like somebody who was at Malati shared a video on Facebook a few days ago of the Beatles at Shea Stadium in 1965. I was 5 years old at that time. I had some older friends who were really into the Beatles, and that's when I started to be into it. I don't remember seeing this thing on television, but they filled up this huge football stadium. It was the first of all the stadium concerts. And you see over like an hour-long video or something, you see all these young girls jumping off and trying to run onto the stage and grab the Beatles, and they're just going mad. Because that's our general mood. We want to try to enjoy for ourselves. It's like going to a Beatles concert. we want to try to enjoy for ourselves, but we need to understand the most basic fundamental thing. It's not for my pleasure. And that's the nature of the manjaris. And then paradoxically, by having that spirit, the manjaris are able to taste the same kind of ecstasy that Srimati Radharani has by serving in that way. Paradoxically, it's a beautiful thing. It's a very important part of our philosophy. Anything else you want to share? Okay, thank you. Brajraj Gopal Prabhu, do you want to share something? You got your hands up. Can we see your smiling face? Haribo.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Wow, you're really effulgent.
It's nice to have the sun here in Atlanta. Prabhuji, this was a very I would say, very esoteric katha for me. And I really, I connected with Tirthakar Prabhu's point that so many times we hear so many pastimes or, uh, you know, theoretical concepts which we have never heard before about Radha and Krishna. So it does feel like their pastimes are expanding, their glories are expanding. Personally, the reflection that I took away was when you spoke about uh, how when Mahaprabhu is chanting Hare Krishna, it's a means of glorifying Srimati Radharani, which is a very unique thing, a unique way of thinking about it. It's usually not the way many devotees speak about what the meaning of chanting Hare Krishna is, chanting the names, and nobody speaks about what it really means. So I think that's a beautiful meditation for me next time I chant. Um, and yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. Okay, first of all, it's not unique. It's what our acharyas say. That this is a mood of Krishna himself. He says, "Napariyeham nirabhadyasam yujam swasadu krityam vibudaya sapi yamabhajam durjaya geha shrinkale samvichayatad vipratiyatu sadhuna." That I can't repay the gopis. And so let their own good qualities be their reward. In other words, the word sadhu is used because someone has to become a sadhu. I have to become a sadhu to glorify them. And how does he glorify them? By taking the same thing they're doing, by showing their ecstatic love. And therefore, our acharyas have described that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hadn't come, who would understand the mood of Srimati Radharani, the love of Radharani? My Guru Maharaj used to speak about this. A problem we have, I heard this beautiful comment recently from some devotees here in Hungary that I really liked, that Shiva Maharaj had commented. He said, one problem in our society is we don't have enough literature for Madhyam Adhikaris. Most of our literature is for Kanishta Adhikaris. And of course, you see that's why he's doing some of the writing that he's doing. So I was really meditating on that comment. It really struck me very, very deeply. We have, and Maharaj himself does not generally speak these things in public. He writes about it, but in public he speaks more simple things. We have this brahmachari ashram that I'm staying in, which is a place for new people who can't figure things out yet, and they need to be trained up. And it's a great training for them, but they're not very mature yet. And so for new devotees like that, which is the basis of our mission, we're always speaking in a certain way. But quite often, I give an example. I remember one senior ISKCON guru, Prabhupada disciple, old friend of mine, giving a Bhagavatam class once in Los Angeles in front of about 100 devotees, all pretty much initiated devotees of Tilak, Kuntimala, and Sarizan. And he was speaking about different reasons from the Bible why we should be vegetarian. Now, I don't think, I'm not mentioning his name or anything, all glories to that wonderful devotee, but I don't think the talk was really relevant for anyone who was there. Because we're already vegetarians, but sometimes we get so absorbed in this preaching to new people that we do it to the devotees also. And we're just kind of spectators who's really, it's like watching a football game, who's can really pass the ball, who can run with the ball, who can do this and that. And we're entertained by that. We're entertained the same way by who can speak nicely for new people. And we think this is the way we should also speak for the devotees. We should read Chaitanya Charitamrita and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and Nectar of Devotion, and Nectar of Instruction. And Srila Prabhupada today, he's speaking from this writings of Raghunath Das Goswami. Prabhupada's giving us that. That's bona fide. These things are there. We should know these things exist. In the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, this Prema-bhakti-candrika, this wonderful book of Raghunath Das Goswami, speaking about the beauty of Radharani. And again, how we were discussing a little more how Krishna's personified his glorification of Radharani is doing his own kirtan, because that's the best glorification of Radharani, is to show her love for him. But it's a very, very esoteric, very difficult thing to understand. It's not something we generally speak about, but I like Shivaram Maharaj's comment. We need to have more Madhyam literature and more Madhyam kathas. Is that helpful, Prabhuji, Bajiraj?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
I'd say we should take a photo of you. You're so effulgent.
um, I personally read a lot of Maharaj's books. Unfortunately, they're not very easily available here in the US. You have to ship very expensive from Europe. Prabhuji, in regards to what you were saying at the end of the katha, like Ashtakaliya Smaran is not recommended at at my level of neophyte thinking. What I've experienced is that when one comes in front of the deities, there is an urge to, you know, if not glorify, like feel some sort of Sharanagati in front of them. That you immediately feel like, oh, I want to meditate on their beauty. That like we take shelter of the beauty of the deities. So, but then is that like the Beatles fans running on the stage and like I'm interested in satisfying my senses?
Maybe and for our neophyte condition, what can you do? It was so striking to watch it. And there was girls who were fainting and screaming and just going crazy over the Beatles. And now those same girls, they were probably about 14 years old at that time. That was gosh, nearly 60 years ago. So the same girls now, there's 75-year-old ladies, if they're still alive at all. And I suspect strongly that they wouldn't behave the same way if they go to a Paul McCartney concert or something like that, because they become more mature. And when they were young like that, they were very immature, and they couldn't even really, I'm speaking in a mundane way, but they couldn't even appreciate the musical qualities and the philosophy, whatever it was, the Beatles were speaking. So in a similar way, sometimes in the beginning of our spiritual life, we're so absorbed. But we sing these prayers every morning. Angani Yasha Sakalendriya Briti Mante, glorifying Krishna. But what is the mood that we should be singing that in? We're doing this as a service to Srila Prabhupada. This kirtan is our service for him. Why is Prabhupada doing this? Because he's doing it as a service to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Guru wants the disciples to do kirtan. Why is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta doing it? As a service to Gaura Kishore, who's doing it. And in this way, we're all doing this as a kirtan of our sampradaya, which ultimately is for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ultimately for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani. And it's being conducted on a higher level by the gopis of Vrindavan. And that's why in the Radha Tantra, the Hare Krishna mantra is given in the book, the Radha Tantra. We have a copy in our library. My Guru sometimes speaks a little bit about it. In the Radha Tantra, it's mentioned how the gopis are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in the spiritual world. And they're doing that to bring pleasure to Krishna. And we're doing that to help bring pleasure to Srimati Radharani, because Radharani, she gets pleasure by hearing about Krishna. And we're primarily servants of Srimati Radharani. Is that helpful?
It just feels like this is the one thing that we feel a sort of reciprocation with. When you started, it was, okay, prasadam, but now we are at the level where the beauty of the deities, it really is a source of shelter after, running around the material world. So it feels like, oh, I have to give that up as well. And that was my question.
Yeah, well, consciousness, we know from Vedic literatures, begins with anamoya. I am hungry. That's what I am. That's who I am. Because we're so attached to our tongue. And so our consciousness also begins with prasadam then. We're thinking prasadam is good. Wow, it's pasta today. That's great. I get tired of rice dal and sabji. we like, this thing or that thing. And when we're thinking of it for our own taste, as we become a little more advanced, then we begin to practice something, because we're instructed by Gurudev to do that. And we have some feeling of obligation that I owe this to Gurudev. But as we become more purified, then we come to the platform of manana, where we can begin to contemplate, why am I doing this? And that more or less is the beginning madhyam stage, where we begin to think about what it is we're doing, why are we doing this? And it's not a condemnation of younger devotees. Really, they can't think about those things. My wife was staying in the Brahmacharini ashram, and she's old school Sankirtan devotee, Krishna Kun. And she came to me the other day and she was shocked. She said, I couldn't believe these two girls are in there. It's during the marathon. Everybody's like completely absorbed. And these two girls are in there talking about boys and, giggling and who they're going to, marry and whatever, like that kind of thing. And she was just shocked. During the marathon, we shouldn't be thinking like that. And I said, well, Krishna Kun, we can't help it. But this is the platform that we're on. But that bodily consciousness is so overwhelming, beginning with I just want to eat something nice. And then as we become more and more purified, it starts, the pressure goes off us, and we can begin to think in a deeper way. We can practice manana, and then we can begin to understand. So this is a very, very important thing. I feel personally that I'm a so-called preacher. I don't know if I want to be much of a preacher. I just like to share with people. But my purpose, I feel, is to try to help make people think. And that's one of the main things I saw from my Guru Maharaj. Oftentimes he would, rather than giving us a lot of information, he would give us a lot of questions. And those questions, so much of the time, were more powerful than the answers, because they make you think.
Mm-hmm.
Lila Purushottam, why did I think you were going to ask about that song? You want those verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? That's what you want.
No, that especially that the gopis Aratic.
Yeah, somehow I thought you might like that. I'll send you a copy of that. It's such a nice thing. We should have sang it there in your ashram. I like singing that in the morning. When you sit in front of Radhashyam Sundar and sing that,
that's what I'm thinking to offer it to them.
You'll become ecstatic. We have about, I don't know, 30 copies or something printed out in our ashram, and we hand them out sometimes when devotees come and do that. That's your reflection today, huh? That's a good reflection.
That was maybe the strongest impression. But you make me thoughtful with that claim of Shivara Maharaj. I would really like to know your thoughts on, probably the best would be to ask Maharaj directly, but what is in this regard, in regard of this discussion, how would we differentiate like Kanishta literature, Madhyam literature, and Uttam literature? Because if I would be like rough about these, we could say like, yeah, Bhagavad Gita, ABC, and then probably we are used to hear about certain literatures that they are reserved only for the realized devotees. So then my question is, what's the Madhyam literature? What's the features of that literature? What differentiates that literature from the, let's say, Ashtakalya Leela descriptions, Krishna Bhavanamrita, Govinda Leelamrita, etc., etc.
Well, again, we should have literature for the level of our consciousness, which begins with Anamoya, just we like to eat, and probably the most popular books in ISKCON are cookbooks, which will tell you a lot, and that's okay. That's a good thing. In Kanishta books, because of the level of consciousness, we're thinking we're the body, and we're very attached to women. And there's so many books now coming up about devotee relationships and ideal grihastha life and this and that. And really that's something that bodily conception is not meant for more mature devotees. That's meant for more neophyte devotees whose shraddha is kanishta. It's not very fixed. It's weak. The madhyam is on a level we want to make them think. And what do we want to make them think? We want to make them think about Krishna. Now, I find it very interesting. I'm becoming a little bold the last few weeks. I took off the veil off my head and I went to war on Facebook. It's a shameless thing to say. But I got into like some heavy, long discussions. But I'm always forcing myself to be very sweet, and very humble and very respectful to everybody. And I'm insisting, without any compromise, that Hari Bhakti, Hari Nam, Hari Katha solves all problems. And there is no problem. And that Hari Bhakti is ISKCON. And it freaks some people out, because there's some people who just really want to push that. And they appreciate it's a little more mature sense that they're concerned about the society. And they're, we've got to do something. And then the child molested bastards, we got to castrate all of them and throw them to the dogs to be eaten alive, whatever kind of stuff they want to say. It's almost like that in times of mood. But they're not quoting Shastra. And they're not taking shelter of the epistemology, the system that our acharyas have done. And yeah, my wife was a little disturbed when I told her I was doing this thing. She said, "Oh my God, this is going to be such a waste of time." But you know what's happened? There were a few really crazy people, and some of them just burned themselves out. They were just so crazy, they couldn't even understand. And finally just got frustrated with me and they just walked away, kind of thing. And other people, they just become quiet. And so many people have been appreciating. And I don't mind it. I don't like having long discussions on Facebook because there's really no value. But if we can establish and defend Sudha Bhakti, I think it's such a very, very important thing. And I'm not afraid of those people because they don't have anything. All they have is their bitterness and anger. That's all they had. They had a bad experience, and I'm just really pissed off at everybody. And that's my whole thing. But that's not bhakti. And that's not what's going to solve anything. It's not going to help. There really, as I pointed out to one devotee today, are we part of the problem, a part of the solution, or part of the problem? And if you're not, your solution is not the same solution as Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, then you're part of the problem. But it looks like some madhyam thing. And in one sense, I would say maybe that's kind of a lower madhyam thing to start thinking out of the box. The Kanishta thing is you just automatically blindly follow whatever people tell you. You become a little more mature, and then you start, there's some things that are not right, and some of the leaders haven't been correct, and they've taken advantage of us. You finally figured that out. And you become angry about it, and you want to save the day by pointing out to them, well, what are they going to do? You point out that some of those leaders have been unscrupulous and they've misbehaved, but people need leaders. They need a brahmachari ashram for new people. They need that kind of training. It's really needed. And here in Hungary, it's such a, they have mandatory Sanskrit training for all the new devotees. They're all supposed to study in the bhakti, and they know the philosophy, they know Shastra things. And in an emotional, personal way, I have to confess, a lot of them, and maybe most of them, a lot of them are immature. But that's to be expected. But the main thing is they're advancing in bhakti, and there's a system here for it, and we should support that. But it also doesn't mean that we have to live in the brahmachari ashram and go on like that. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah, I'm thinking if it answered my query.
Well, what is Kanisha? What is Madhyam literature? There's different explanations of that. And my comment is, I'm thinking that Madhyam literature means to make people think, to come to the platform of manana. Whereas on the Kanisha level, it's just a vyasa, that we just practice in a mindless way. We're not thinking about anything. We have no brain. We're just practicing something. When we come to the platform of manana, and that manana means our philosophy, even you're not this body. If you read some of the things that Kano Priya Goswami, he wrote about the jiva and how we're not our body. Same basic, but he wrote in such a very interesting, far out way, such a beautiful way, a way to make you think. And Prabhupada wrote in so many ways to make us think. We should consider those things. But the problem comes, I think, that as Kanishas, we just want to mirror everything. We want to repeat everything verbatim. Yeah. And we just want to try to memorize things. Whereas a Madhyam, we begin to understand, no, I have to think about it. And I have to explore it from a different perspective even.
That's maybe the heart of my question is that if we can at all speak about some literature like this, rather than seeing with what adhikar we approach the book. I mean, it's the whole lot different when the Kanishta Adhikari reads Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and when Uttama Adhikari reads Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And you can't really say Bhagavad Gita is the Kanishta book because the Uttama Adhikari will see Radha and Krishna's pastimes everywhere in Bhagavad Gita. So in that sense, that's maybe my question. Like, what did Maharaj meant by the terminology that we need more literature for Madhyamadhikaris? Like,
I would consider it based on of course we'd have to ask him himself, but just based on his books. And honestly speaking, I'm not well read in his books. I've seen a few of them, read a little bit. Basically, I like to read the Mula literatures personally. And it's more my personal mood, but I appreciate what he's doing. But what I find in his books is that he's trying to make people think in so many different ways. In a philosophical way, he wrote a book about Prabhupada's Gita, defending Prabhupada's translations, which is kind of a very basic book. He wrote another book about Siksha and Diksha, again, making people think. Or his Rasa books, or he's written some books on Vanashram, the same thing. We have to think about things because everything has to be applied according to time, place, and circumstance in terms of the institution, in terms of preaching. But then beyond that, we're going to have to grow up and be individual persons, and we're going to have to show up in Radharani's kunj someday, maybe, and do some service. And what are we going to do? We're just going to stand there and say, and just start repeating, memorization, what we memorize from Prabhupada's purports, like a parrot or something, standing there. We're going to have to do something.
Yeah. Well, may I have one more question?
Yeah, you're allowed.
It came to me, I wanted to ask the question quite a few times already, but there was another such occasion in that Arati song. There was no names in the verse itself, and somehow or other, anyone who translated it just put the names into the translation. I have observed this phenomena so many times that there is no specific like name mentioned in the original text, and then you read the translation and there are names. Like here was like Kishore Kishori, or sometimes you have Gandharvika Giridhari, whatever. But there are no names in the original text, and you. So from the point of view of translator, if you could comment on that, like.
Yeah, well, let's go back and look at the song again first of all. Okay, Radhe Govinda Jai Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Radhe. There's definitely some names. Yeah. It's starting out in Thakur Hamari Nanda Kila. There's definitely names. Thakurani Shrimati Radhe, Brishabhanu Nandini Srinandandan,
It was
Shama Bami. There's quite a few names throughout the song, actually. But your point is a valid one, that the translator, he's taken some liberty. Actually, I don't want to get into this particular translator's not my personal favorite. And partly because I feel
many texts, really in many texts, this phenomena is just occurs. Like there is no names in the text, in the original text, and all of a sudden in translation you have like specific names used.
Yeah, there's some of that going on here, but there's other things too. Like it says Shama Kori, means Shama Krishna does. What does he do? Mohana Murali Viraja. He's holding his flute, which is known as Mohan Murali, that Murali which bewilders everybody. And he's added the word notorious.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet. I don't mind it. Prabhupada does it a lot of times. You kind of add a purport to it. And that's what he's done. And then this line here, Saki Manjari Jato Mangala Gayato Jairati Govinda Jari Sundara Badani Arunima Lochana Banki Michani Saji. And he says, Kishori's faces are beautiful. Well, that's the translator's addition. Translation, you're a person who's what, trilingual? You speak 3 languages or 4? 5? 6? You speak a number of different languages, so you can understand, and you translate sometimes. Translation oftentimes is more like purports.
Interpretation, I call it.
Yes, because you cannot give always a literal translation. And sometimes if you try, it comes across very flat. Someone recently translated Embankment of Separation into French. And I gave it to one of my French godbrothers, and what do you think of this? And he looked it over and he got back to me and said, was this a person or was this a Google translation? And I said, I don't know. They didn't tell me. He told me, I think it's a Google translation because it's just so literal. And that becomes a little dry. So I have mixed feelings about that. You're asking my opinion about translators. Yeah, when you say the notorious flute and the Kishori's faces, that makes me feel a little uncomfortable that he's added something there. Partly it makes me uncomfortable just because I know the translator, and I don't want to be offensive, but I don't have so much. I don't have some deep appreciation for him, so much faith in him. I'm sorry. That's just the situation. If I did, then it would be a different thing. With Srila Prabhupada sometimes does a similar thing. We don't mind that because I have faith in Prabhupada. But when I see someone else doing something like this, sometimes it feels a little artificial or sahaja-like or something, it doesn't make me very comfortable. And therefore, generally, I like literal translations better.
Yeah, because that would be like if we know these, like Prabhupada sometimes explains in his Gita purports why the name was used. So in that case, if someone adds the name to the translation, you would immediately ask, is there a deeper meaning why you picked up this particular name? Or because we are used to be contemplative in that sense over the text, so that would be my reservation
which comes to the next point. This person that I know, I really don't want to say negative things, but he's taken upon himself to write some commentaries and some very confidential literatures, Rasik literatures of our Goswamis, and that's okay. That's needed. But the mood that he's adopted is this kind of thing, his notorious Murali, like you're hearing from a gopi or something. Like he's a gopi, speaking to saying, I feel uncomfortable with that. I just don't relate to that. I much more prefer when somebody, even Vishwanath, he gives some conversations in the Gita and other places that Arjuna is telling Krishna, I quit, I'm not going to do this. And Krishna's preaching to him, and there's a whole conversation that he gives. But the tone of the conversation is very kind of sober and not always sober, but what's the word? It's dignified. It's not trying to artificially go deep inside their emotions and start and Arjuna started giggling and said, "Oh, Krishna, why you know," like that would really like
Fantastic conversations in Sarartha Darshini, especially in 10th canto, like when Vishwanath gives the conversations between Krishna and gopis, it's like expressing so many emotions actually, but in
a dignified way.
I solve it for myself with like having full faith in Vishwanath's power of revelation. Like for him, it was spurti. It wasn't like something that I would, it was not it was not thinking like it could be like this and maybe I could write this. Rather, I have a strong faith in with those personalities that they really are just giving us their like insight into their spurtis, into their vision of the leelas.
Yeah, but it's like Chaitanya Upanishad. I don't know we want to speak about this, but Chaitanya Upanishad is not mentioned in any Upanishads. It's not mentioned by any acharyas. There's no manuscripts anywhere. Only Bhaktivinoda speaks about it. Well, that's okay with me. I'm fine with that because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I have faith in him. However, if I go and speak about that, if I'm invited to give a lecture at some university or something, I'm not going to quote that book.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not the proper audience. They don't have the same kind of faith that I have. And even amongst devotees, sometimes some devotees have doubts about Bhaktivinoda like that, or about Prabhupada, certain things he did, or whatever. And maybe it's not appropriate to speak with them in that way. We have to really see who we're speaking to, and everything's based on faith. Okay, I'm supposed to go to another phone conversation in just about 3 minutes. Natalia, do you want to share anything? You look like a tree. There she is. Haribol. Wow, look at that. You're one of the assistants of Santa Claus.
I'm selling prasadam on Christmas Square.
We at the shopping mall or something?
No, I'm distributing prasadam on Christmas fair.
Oh, the Christmas fair. Wow, that's really far out. Good for you. That's so good. Looks like there's a lot of nice warm weather there in Estonia too, huh? Oh, you're in Estonia or you're in Germany? You're in Germany. Are you in Germany? You can't hear me. Can you hear me, Lila Purushottam?
I can hear you, but Natalia is muted. Natalia is muted.
I can't hear you. Anyway, it's okay. It's nice to see you, Natalia. Hare Krishna. So I think we should go ahead and stop. I have to have a discussion with some of the people now. So, yeah. Oh, she can't hear or speak. What to do? Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki jai, Go Prema-bhakti-candrika Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpa Tarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu